As the saying goes, Rome was not built in a day. From ancient times through medieval, on through the incredible Renaissance, as you meander through the alleyways and incredible piazzas here in Rome, you can still get little tastes of each of those time periods still today. So let the meandering, let the wandering, let the curiosity begin. Remember when you were a child and all you asked was why? Well, I never quite outgrew that whole quest for knowledge phase. In fact, I've made a career out of asking who, what, where, why, and how as an arts and travel journalist for the past 20 years. So, if I have an insatiable curiosity about the exciting, inspiring, beautiful world of art, architecture, and hidden history all around us, I bet you do too. This isn't your typical what to do on a vacation travel show. Oh no, this is your all-access pass to a deeper understanding of the world's great art and architecture, people and places, history, and how did they do that. So, come along on our educational journey, our field trip for grown-ups who have never quite grown up, and learn on Curious Traveler. Curious Traveler is made possible by the following.
Europe is a treasure trove of fascinating history, rich culture, and renowned cities. Ama Waterways River Cruises offers a way to see all this wonder in person. You can discover more at amawaterways.com.
Towering fjords, Nordic culture, Scandinavian heritage, the Northern Lights. So many ways to experience Scandinavia. Adventures begin at firebirdtours.com. Blue Ribbon Bags, baggage protection made simple. We track and return your delayed baggage around the world. We send automatic email updates so you can do what you love. BlueRibbonBags.com. Anatomy, European travel clothing for women. Anatomy is designed to fly. Anatomy.com.
Roma, the Pantheon, the piazzas, the pizza, and the pastas. We will consume it all, but with our Curious Traveler twist. We know it's not enough to say Roma è bella. We need to know why is that there, and that there, and that there. Here's what I'm curious about in Rome. Why does this ancient structure make me feel like I'm standing at the center of the universe? Why are there 4 half-naked dudes here? What is this odd-shaped building? And why does this wall look suspicious? What's the deal with all the keys in this church? And the most important, curious question of all, how do you take in all of Rome's beauty? Oh mio Dio! Here is what is amazing about wandering the streets of Rome. Now, back in ancient times, this was all part of Hadrian's complex, and you still get the same experience today. So ancient people and modern people alike got treated to this site, the Pantheon, as Michelangelo called it, built by angels, not by men. Most people know that the word pantheon means all gods, a temple to all the gods of pagan Rome. There have been 3 versions of the Pantheon on this same spot. The first, by Marcus Agrippa, you can still see M. Agrippa above the portico. The second, by Domitian, and the third, completed under Hadrian. Believe it or not, this is that very same building nearly 2,000 years later. Originally built in 27 BC and later rebuilt in 120 AD, the Pantheon is a masterpiece in ancient Roman engineering. It also set the standard for every other magnificent dome you've ever seen. Think I'm kidding? Brunelleschi was inspired to create his Duomo in Florence from it. And St. Peter's Basilica, also here in Rome, bears a remarkable resemblance to the dome here at the Pantheon. In fact, those creators liked it so much, they borrowed a little something from the Pantheon, which we'll tell you about later. But the real ancient wonder is definitely still here, the legendary Pantheon Dome. Symbolizing the dome of heaven or the roundness of the earth. Yes, it is possible that ancient Romans already knew the earth was round. You have all the different gods around you as if you're in the center of this little mini universe, a mini Earth.
You got it right. It's cosmic.
So cool.
It is the cosmos.
But how did earthly engineers build this heavenly dome? Well, think of a basketball inside a trash can, except this basketball just happens to be 142 feet. Now, how do you make that stand up?
The layers of concrete have a different mix as they go up towards the oculus. And to create less stress towards the top, they use a special volcanic pumice called pozzolana, and it's lighter and stronger than any other concrete mix. You've got 5,000 tons of concrete in that dome.
It's amazing.
At the top is the nearly 30-foot wide oculus. It works like a keystone to release some of the pressure so the dome doesn't cave in. Kind of important. Now look around. See any light bulbs? Nope. The oculus is the only light source, but that's not all.
Most people know that pantheon means temple to all the gods, but did you know how the ancients believed all those gods got in here? Well, from that oculus, of course.
It comes out of the Greek and Roman sort of religion that you're building your temple to entice the pagan gods to come into the temple, to inhabit it.
Okay.
So if you've got a big hole in the roof,
Right.
then they can
Come on in.
Come on in.
Oculus is Latin for eye. Hello. So this is God's eye watching over us. So you better be good for goodness sakes. And here is my favorite theory, that the oculus light creates a massive sundial, kind of like a Roman Stonehenge.
Hadrian was astrology crazy, and in fact this goes all the way through the Christian papacy as well. The sun coming in through the oculus hit various parts of the Pantheon to record certain times of the year.
So cool.
So especially, for example, the winter solstice and the summer solstice. The segments of the Pantheon are 28 of the dome. And of course, this represents roughly the lunar year, roughly 28 days in a lunar month.
Wow.
From giant calendar to, can anyone give me directions to Santa Maria ad Martris Church? Well, you're already standing in it.
Back in ancient times, all these niches you see behind me, those held statues of pagan gods. But once, of course, the Pantheon was consecrated as a Christian church, today you see Christian statues.
Yes, in 609 AD, the Pantheon was the first pagan temple in Rome to be consecrated as a Christian church.
I love that part of history where you have these, these pagan temples, these pagan monuments, and all of a sudden, oh, we put a cross on top of it. It's now a Christian symbol. That's exactly what happened here.
That's exactly what happened here to get rid of the demons.
From a pagan temple to a cosmic sundial to a Christian church, the Pantheon has lived up to its name of all things to all gods. And its divine architecture has inspired the great monuments of the world, including one really important one here in Rome that may have something to do with a why isn't that there moment.
What is this?
Parts of the Pantheon used to be covered in bronze, symbolizing the sun, the heavens, the power of the emperor. So why isn't that there anymore? Follow me. I think I know where to find it. But first, a pit stop. I'm kind of thirsty.
So here in Rome, it is of course all about seeing ancient history. But what about tasting ancient history? Well, you can do that too at all these wonderful public water fountains. It's completely safe. It's really kind of cool as you fill your water bottle here. It's out of a spigot called a nasone, because that is Italian for nose, shaped like a little nose. Deliciosa.
Finding a nasone when you're thirsty here in Rome is nessun problema, no problem. Because while Romans were building the Pantheon, they were also building another engineering marvel, the aqueduct. And true to Roman style, the end of the aqueduct had to be stylish. No simple end of a water hose here, like the Trevi Fountain at the end of the Aqua Virgo. So let's follow the ancient Aqua Virgo through Rome to another famous fountain, and our next Why Is That There? To the Pope's front yard. I hear he's having a pool party. Piazza Navona, today one of the most picturesque and popular piazzas in Rome, with artists, restaurants, and plenty of curious travelers. But once upon a time, you wouldn't stroll or dine here. You would either be racing on horseback or swimming. Here's the curious history of Piazza Navona, or as ancient citizens called it, Domitian Stadium or Circus Agonalis.
It was the first stadium ever built in stone here in Rome by the Emperor Domitian. In 86 AD, he had inaugurated a new series of celebrations for the god Jupiter.
So now, as you look around, can you see that shape of the original racetrack?
This was where racing happened, and the buildings up around it, those are where the stadium seats were.
Exactly, it was big enough to hold 30,000 spectators, so it was always a place for entertainment, really. It's just shifted slightly.
And even better, there are still parts of that ancient stadium underneath.
And we can see how the level of the ground was so much lower, and just look at how they used the blocks. The remains of this stadium in the basement of almost all the homes that are around the edge of the stadium. It's the same shape as it was over 19 centuries ago.
By the 15th century, the stadium was paved over and became a marketplace, just like it is today. In the 17th century, Pope Innocent X built his majestic Pamphili Palace here, and he attached a family chapel to his not-so-humble home, the beautiful St. Agnes in Agony.
So after the Pope built himself this beautiful church and palace, what to put in his front yard to cap it all off? A tacky pink flamingo, a little gnome? I don't think so. Instead, he built the very famous Fountain of the Four Rivers.
Behold the famous Fontana dei Quattro Fiumi by Bernini, the opening to the Aqua Virgo that we've been looking for. What's up with all these half-naked dudes? Well, these massive male sculptures aren't just here to flex their muscles. They're each a symbol of the 4 continents and rivers. Yeah, Renaissance geographers only knew of 4 back then. Asia holds an oar showing the navigability of the Ganges. Europe holds the papal coat of arms, showing Europe's loyalty to the church. Africa has a wrap around his head, signifying that the head or beginning of the Nile was undiscovered. America sits on a pile of coins, showing its wealth of resources, as in the wealth that Europe could take from the Americas. In the center is an obelisk with a papal dove on top. This is a symbol of the Pope's power, so of course all the continents are leaning back in reverence.
This idea of the 4 continents, which was the world, meaning that his power expanded as the Pope of the Universal Church far beyond the boundaries of Rome itself.
But there's a lighter, funnier legend about the fountain too. See how America is shielding his head? The story says he's protecting himself in case the church suddenly falls down. No, seriously. Why? Well, Bernini's arch-rival, Borromini, designed the church, so this was the 17th century's version of trash talk. Next, care for a swim? Well, once upon a time, you could dive on into the Lago di Piazza Navona. Where is this Piazza Navona lake? You're standing in it.
If we were standing here, and correct me if I'm wrong, standing here maybe in the 1400s, our feet would be wet.
That's exactly right, because they used to flood it. They'd have naval battles, they'd have fun for the people, and you could even swim on the hot days.
So, Romans splashed about until around 1870 when Piazza Navona was repaved in the San Pietrini style, a convex shape that forced the water to drain off. Pool party poopers. Next, from one pope's villa to another, time to take a passeggiata on over to a famous Roman castle. Fortress, tomb. Well, it's kind of all of the above. Before the Pope lived here, the popes lived here part-time at Castel Sant'Angelo. But Papa wasn't the first resident here. No, not at all. The first resident was a dead emperor, Hadrian, the same dude who built that Pantheon we love. He built his mausoleum here around 135 AD. But where is it?
When you look at the image of the castle, there's a part where it really looks like a castle, which is the top brick part that ends with the angel. In between that and the ground, there is a rough stone kind of area that belongs to the time when it was a tomb for Hadrian and his family.
But why build a mausoleum here on the opposite side of the river away from the city?
In the Roman world, it was forbidden to bury folks inside the city walls. So he was technically outside the city walls here.
The next layer of our cake marks the time when Castel Sant'Angelo was used as a military fortress. And for that, we add some shoulders. Not the bad shoulder pads of the 1980s, but some heavy, foreboding concrete shoulders of the 1480s.
That's Alexander VI, who's going to build these 4 bastions or towers at each corner of the surrounding square protective wall, and he finesses the end of the sort of castle shoulders of the mausoleum around 1480 something, 1492, time of Columbus. And he was very concerned about war.
Next, why is it called Castel Sant'Angelo, Castle of the Angels? Well, because of a divine vision of the Archangel Michael in 590 AD by Saint Gregory the Great trying to save his people from the plague.
So he conducted a series of processions for 3 days up to the point where this bridge begins.
Okay.
And the accounts are that on that day, he and a group of people near him, probably some of the monks and nuns, saw the angel there. So the sculpture marks that vision.
But why is the angel's sword pointing downward? He is putting his sword back in its sheath or at rest, meaning the plague was over. But there's another theory too.
While that is one explanation, that the angel was put there to mark the end of an epidemic, there's also the sense that the angel marks the christening of pagan Rome as Christian Rome, and it begins the story of medieval Holy Roman Empire.
And what safer place for a pope than at the top of this fortress castle, close to an angel ready to protect with his sword? So for the icing on our cake, Castel Sant'Angelo becomes a regal papal apartment.
The little balcony that we see there with the 2 columns belongs to the papal apartment of Julius II, who was Michelangelo's friend and patron that asked him to paint the frescoes of the Sistine Chapel ceiling. It was like a penthouse.
It is a penthouse, the penthouse suite.
And leading up to this beautiful penthouse suite slash castle slash fortress is the beautiful Ponte Sant'Angelo, adorned with heavenly angels designed by Bernini, who did that Fountain of the 4 Rivers we've already seen. But there's more than one way to get to the castle. You just can't see it unless you're the Pope.
My favorite part about Castel Sant'Angelo, and probably for a lot of other people too, is the secret passageway between St. Peter's Basilica.
It's a wall that you see that has little tiny vertical openings that let in air and light for the people passing in this corridor that's actually a little bit elevated from ground level, and that takes the Pope and whoever was in his entourage back and forth.
So everyone else on the ground, on the street level, thought it was just a wall.
Yeah, except those on the inside, yeah.
the inside folks.
But why is the Passetto di Borgo here? Well, the wall was built in ancient times, but the secret passageway was added in the Middle Ages, just in case some bad guys came to the Vatican for a not-so-friendly visit and the Pope had to make a run for it.
Oh no!
So let's follow that secret passageway from Castel Sant'Angelo to the home of today's Pope and the most magnificent spectacle in Rome. Cue the angelic music. It is time for... We have truly saved the best for last, the ultimate, the magnificent, the happiest place on earth, no, not Disney World, St. Peter's Basilica.
Bramante, Michelangelo, Maderno, Bernini. These are just some of the legendary names that helped to create the beautiful, the magnificent St. Peter's Basilica.
The one you see today is actually the second church built atop the first.
This one was built between 1506 and 1626. And yes, it really does take that long to build something this magnificent.
Let's get curious about why this magnificent basilica is here in the first place.
This, where we're actually standing right now, this was Nero's circus, which was basically a racetrack, right?
It was his private racetrack. He liked to do chariot racing. His villa was here.
So why build a church on top of Nero's racetrack? Well, because under Nero's reign, this is where St. Peter is believed to have been crucified.
So Constantine chooses to build a magnificent structure to commemorate St. Peter, a representative of the new god in town. which is Christ. And it is a magnificent structure.
But why does the Pope live here? Jesus named Peter the first teacher or pope, so that's why, to this day, the popes live and teach from here. Also, Peter or Petra means rock, the rock that the church will be built upon, and what a church it is. But one that took some serious time to build.
There was a lot of strife going on over who was going to get commissioned to do the design.
Well, it starts off being the architectural baby of Donato Bramante. And his design basis was he wanted to place the dome of the Pantheon over the Temple of Peace. So he had this grand vision, a circular planned church, a kind of new pantheon for a new god.
Then Michelangelo expanded on that design. Then Maderno extended the nave. The entire length of the basilica is about 2 football fields long. Hail Mary indeed. And in the center is our next glorious Why Is That There?
Remember how we said there was some bronze missing from the Pantheon? Well, I think I've found it. It's all thanks to Roman's unique view on, let's call it, recycling. That's right, the bronze from the ancient Pantheon is right here at St. Peter's Basilica.
Now, this, of course, is just one of the many theories of where all that ancient bronze went to. But what a curious theory indeed.
Pope Urban VIII Barberini, he takes the bronze from the roof of the portico and gives it to the great Gian Lorenzo Bernini.
Hard to believe anyone would destroy one masterpiece to build another, but this happened all the time in Rome.
Quod non fecerunt Barbari, fecerunt Barberini. What the barbarians didn't do, the Barberini did.
Amazing.
So what is this incredible structure made out of stolen Pantheon bronze? The baldacchino. So what is a baldacchino? Well, it's a canopy to shelter the Pope as he was carted around, kind of like the original Pope-mobile. Only this canopy is made out of multiple tons of bronze and is almost 10 stories high. So no, I don't think this one is exactly mobile. This monumental scale was intended to make us feel tiny at the foot of God. Mission accomplished. So why is it here? Because it still shelters a pope, the original pope, St. Peter, whose tomb is below. And some say the columns are modeled after Solomon's temple in Jerusalem. And there's 4 to represent the 4 evangelists. Together, this symbolizes the Old Testament uniting with the New.
Whoa!
Now, follow those columns up to Michelangelo's dome above.
Michelangelo, his comment on the Pantheon was that it was designed by angels and not by men. The dome of St. Peter's, which he made 1.5 feet less than the Pantheon, out of respect for this incredible engineering from the Roman world.
And so it's a true tribute, said I'm not going to compete with it, I'm not going to outdo it, I'm going to be inspired by it, but still respect it.
It is his tribute.
But here, instead of a Pantheon-style oculus for pagan gods, there's the Christian version with a vision of heaven. There's also 16 massive windows up here. What's so interesting about a couple of windows? Look how the rays stream onto the religious works below. These are called crepuscular rays, meaning sun rays or God's rays. They happen in nature all the time, and wise architects like Michelangelo created them for divine effect within churches like St. Peter's. How cool. Next, we climb even higher for an amazing view of St. Peter's Square. But wait, why isn't it in the shape of a square? It has something to do with all these keys everywhere. The key to all these keys is right here under the balcony. In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus says to Peter, "I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven." So now look again at that not-so-square St. Peter's Square, and you will see the biggest key of all. But wait, there's more.
So down here in St. Peter's Square, you can see how all the columns stretch around to form the shape of a key. It also is in the shape of kind of a hug, right? Well, that was intentional, so as to be mother's arms welcoming all who come inside.
So, what is the key to truly experiencing and immersing in Rome? By being curious about the connections between an ancient engineering marvel built by a Roman emperor to his final resting place, which became a palace for the Pope that led us to the current Pope Palace, which was inspired by that original ancient dome, even if it borrowed some of its raw materials. By walking a bridge of angels designed by the same artist who created this canopy and this fountain that represented the world and its rivers that sometimes overflowed into an ancient sports stadium. And then following that ancient waterway to other glorious Roman fountains or humble ones to drink in all that ancient history. No matter where you wander in Rome, the key is to always be curious.
Thank you for joining us on our educational journey, and hopefully now you're even more curious about the who, what, where, why, and how of Rome. As they say here in Rome, a presto ciao. When in Rome, it's very important not to run over the nuns.
Very important.
Very importante. So, in Italian?
Bisogna fare molta attenzione.
What he said.
Curious Traveler is made possible by the following.
Europe is a treasure trove of fascinating history, rich culture, and renowned cities. Ama Waterways River Cruises offers a way to see all this wonder in person. You can discover more at amawaterways.com.
Towering fjords, Nordic culture, Scandinavian heritage, the Northern Lights. So many ways to experience Scandinavia. Adventures begin at firebirdtours.com. Blue Ribbon Bags, baggage protection made simple. We track and return your delayed baggage around the world. We send automatic email updates so you can do what you love. BlueRibbonBags.com. Anatomy, European travel clothing for women. Anatomy is designed to fly. Anatomy.com.
Still curious? Go to CuriousTravelerTV.com and follow us on Facebook at Curious Traveler TV, on Twitter at Curious Trav TV, and on Instagram at Curious Traveler TV.